Hi and welcome back to Chef Hacker Kitchen. Today we're going to hack a Sicilian style chicken cacciatore, and we're going to do it using pots and pans that are very inexpensive that I open box reviewed in a prior video. So this is the promised cook with that inexpensive cookware. Oh wait, one more thing I'm going to do differently. I normally just do one recipe, but today I'm also going to do recipes for the side items that I'm going to make with the chicken cacciatore. And that's going to be broccoli rabe and some roasted cut potatoes. Let's get started. Okay, so we're going to start with our chicken, and that's a whole chicken cut up. But it's really too much for me and too much for the pan. So I'm only going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces. That should be plenty for my wife and I. Now this pan is the deep saute pan with lid, and we're going to start by heating that up. Now this is a non-stick pan, but even if it were not a non-stick pan, you might say, well, aren't you going to put some kind of a fat in the bottom of that? And the answer is no, I'm really not. Oops, because chicken has plenty of fat in it. And I'm going to start by putting the skin side down so enough fat will render and it'll give it a nice brown color. Okay, so first pepper and salt. And I'm just sprinkling that on. All right. The pan is nice and warm. So in the chicken goes. Okay, now you probably don't want to crowd the pan too much because you want the moisture to be able to evaporate. Maybe I should have dried this chicken off a little bit before I put it in, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, you want the moisture to evaporate so that the skin will get nice and brown. Okay, I think this is going to work just fine. Okay. Now, you want to be careful not to move the chicken too much. You want it to really get a nice sear on the skin side that's down. So we're going to let this go on about a medium heat. And while that's cooking, we're going to go ahead and we are going to get the potatoes started. Okay. So I've moved the chicken to the back burner so I could line this up with the camera a little better. Now I'm using my 10-inch saute pan. And in this case, I'm going to use a little bit of olive oil because we're cooking potatoes and they really it will be nice and crispy with a little bit of olive oil. So now I'm going to go ahead and take the potatoes, and again I'm going to add some salt and pepper. I'll just toss them a little bit in that. And again, you kind of want these to sit just like you want the chicken to sit so that it'll get a little bit brown. All right, so we're going to go ahead and check the brownness. Yeah, we could use a little more brownness on the chicken. Let's check the potatoes. Yeah, we could use a little more browning of the potatoes as well. All right. Now these are non-stick pans, which I did an open box on earlier, and they are metal utensil safe, but I've really never found a pan that I've been willing to use metal utensils. So I have this set of kind of plastic ones that I always use, and they seem to work really just fine. So, all right. All right, so we can see these potatoes are just about ready. They're a little bit brown and not too brown, so we're going to turn off the heat, and we are going to go ahead and add some seasoning, which is going to be a little bit of a little bit of oregano and a little bit of thyme. We're going to then sprinkle in a little bit of grated pecorino romano, and we're going to test how oven safe these pans are by putting this into a 400-degree oven, and we're going to leave that in there for about 20 minutes, or until the potatoes are nice and brown. And okay, now let's see. I'm going to move this back over to here. And let's have a look at our chicken. You may notice that I added a couple of pieces. The cooked chicken kind of shrunk enough so that there was room in there. And you see we're getting a nice brown color on these right now. So we're going to let that go a few more minutes. And then we're going to flip those. And then brown the other side. Okay. All right, so let's see what we got here. We got, that's some nice brown color here. Perfect. Nice. Ready to flip. Okay, now these are the two we added a little bit later, and they're not going to be quite so brown, but they look pretty good, so we'll get going. All right, now we'll brown this side, and then we'll go ahead and add the rest of the ingredients and move along. All right, so this chicken seemed to have released a lot of moisture when I first flipped it, so I needed to let it go a little longer than usual. Of course, the early chicken is not very brown, but I think we're about ready now to go ahead and add the vegetables. Now we're going to add onions and pepper, and I like to add red and green pepper because it adds nicely to the color. Actually, I might have a little more than I need here. We'll put it all in. We're going to add some garlic, and this is just rough, very coarse chopped garlic. We're going to add a little bit of a little bit of red pepper flakes, just for a little bit of heat. 2 small bay leaves, and then some Italian mixture, which is oregano, basil, thyme, parsley, and I forget the other spice that's in there, but I'll remember it later. Okay. Now normally, if this was kind of dry, I would add a little bit of water, but this looks just fine. So instead, I'm going to put the lid on it and let it cook this way just for a little bit longer. Now when that starts to really steam and those peppers and onions begin to cook, then I'm going to transfer it to that same 400-degree oven that holds the potatoes. Okay. All right, so we got some good action here, and I'm going to give this just a tiny bit of a mix-up so that some of these peppers will drop and the chicken will emerge on top. Mix in some of the spices. I probably would have done a little better if I didn't add those 2 pieces of chicken. I may have overcrowded the pan a little bit too much, but I think we're going to be okay. By the way, I remembered that other spice is called rosemary. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and throw in some capers. Now you may say, well, where's the hack here? Okay, well, you may notice that I didn't add any tomato. And most every chicken cacciatore recipe I've ever seen has used tomato, but my dad told me his mom from Sicily never used tomato in her chicken cacciatore. She made it just about this way. So that's it. Now, I'm ready to put this in the oven, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the same oven that the potatoes are in, which are probably ready. And I'm going to pull this out, and yeah, look at, they look nice and golden brown. Now I'm going to set these aside because the chicken will take probably another 20 minutes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the leather holder on it. And what you always want to do is, if you take something out of a hot oven, go ahead and put a towel around it at the very minimum so that you don't grab it and burn your hand. So I'm going to say that this pot did a really nice, or this pan did a really nice job on these potatoes. They didn't stick. They got nice and brown. They have a wonderful aroma coming off them. So I'm going to set these aside. Can't wait to try those. Now what I'm going to do is, oh, and that's another thing. The top of this lid stayed rather cool to the touch in spite of how violently that pot was simmering. So let me put this over the side, and now we're going to make the broccoli rabe, which is right here. We're going to start with some oil, and I'm using the 3-quart saucepan for this. It's probably a little bit too small, but the next size up is probably a little bit too big for this amount of broccoli rabe, but I think we'll be just fine. So we're going to go ahead and let that heat up. And I'm going to toast some garlic in there. Again, it's that same coarse chopped garlic. Now with garlic, you want it to brown a little bit, but you really don't want it to burn so that it'll get bitter. This is a super simple dish. It's oil, garlic, salt, pepper, and if you like, you could add a little bit of pepper flake to that too if you want some heat, but it's not necessary. Now when I was a kid, my mother used to call this bitter broccoli. I guess because it looks like a broccoli head. It's got a bunch more leaves, but it looks like a broccoli head, and it is really a bitter vegetable. And in fact, what do they call it? An acquired taste. When you first taste it, you say, oh, this is unpleasant. But after you eat it 2 or 3 times, the pizza principle takes over. What's the pizza principle? Well, go look it up on the website, chefhackerkitchen.com, and you'll see. And then all of a sudden you love it, and you're a fan of broccoli rabe after a few tries. All right, so we see it sizzling a little bit, taking a bit longer than I'd hoped, but maybe I should bring the heat up a little bit. All right, so you see it's kind of just bubbling along there. In another probably 5 or 10 seconds, it'll be browned, and then I'm going to add the broccoli rabe, and there's enough water in the washed broccoli rabe to stop the garlic from burning. So let's do that. Yeah, I can see them getting a little bit toasted, so that's good. So in it goes. And it's a little bit like spinach, whereas you say, oh my God, it's so much. What are we going to do with all this? By the time you get cooking, you wonder where it all went. I'm going to put in a little bit of salt also, and a little bit of black pepper. And then I'm going to put a lid on it. Now I'm going to lower it to about just below medium. You want it to cook kind of quickly. And that'll be it. All right. All right, so this has been cooking for a few minutes, and it kind of shrunk down a little bit. That's what I meant about really losing. And you see the garlic now just has a little bit of a brown side to it, and that's really what you want. And I'm going to say that this is going to continue to cook a little bit. We have a few more minutes on the chicken, so I'm going to turn this off and set this aside as well, because I'm going to call that ready. In fact, I'm going to leave the lid kind of askew for a bit, so it doesn't lose its beautiful dark green color. Okay. All right, so it's been about 20 minutes, and let's see how our chicken is. Oh yeah, look at that. The peppers are softened but not mushy. The onions are cooked, and the chicken, yes, is nice and tender. Okay, good. So we're about ready to plate this out. Bring this over. All right, let's see what we have here. Surround it with some peppers and onions. Now we're going to be serving this with potato, because that's how my dad ate it, but it works very well with pasta also. And this juice that I'm going to pour on when we're done here, look at how nice and brown these potatoes are. Okay, this juice, which I'm going to put on at the end, goes wonderful on pasta. And we're going to put, Italians love greens, right? So we're going to put a little bit of greens here. And now for some of this juice. This is just wonderful stuff. It has the taste of chicken and the Italian herbs and the onions and peppers. Okay, so hacked Sicilian chicken cacciatore with potatoes and broccoli rabe. So that's our hack of Sicilian chicken cacciatore, cooked in the cookware that is very low cost, that we open box videoed a little while ago. Now, overall, my impressions are the pots and pans work fine. My only criticism would be that the deep saute pan would be good for maybe a family of 4, but if you have any additional family members, then that particular pan might be a little bit small for an entree. But other than that, I think anyone who had these pots would be happy with them. Okay, if you like this recipe, go ahead and hit the like button down below. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe. And if you would like a detailed recipe with the amounts of ingredients as well as the individual steps for cooking these dishes, then go ahead and head over to chefhackerkitchen.com. But to be honest with you, none of these particular amounts of ingredients are critical, so you could probably get away with hacking it, winging it, whatever you want to call it. You'll be fine. See you next time in Chef Hacker's Kitchen.